Hey everyone, Mark here, and today I'm going to be doing some early spring planting. Spinach, lettuce, Brussels sprouts, and radishes. Let's go. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Brussels sprouts? Radishes? In the beginning of April? They're never going to make it. You might be right, but I'm willing to experiment and I have a strategy. I'm going to use a combination of PVC built cold frames and some frost blankets to try and protect these seeds from early frost if they do emerge for me. The other thing I'm going to do is plant all these crops pretty close together, and the idea is I'm stacking them in layers, both through space, vertically, and through time. And what I mean by that is the spinach and lettuce will grow vertically above the ground a couple inches, the radishes will grow below the ground, and the Brussels sprouts will grow, hopefully, a foot or 2 feet even above the ground. So they're all on different tiers vertically. I also hope to stack these layers through time. So the radishes should take 20 to 30 days to be ready, if small radishes. The spinach and lettuce should take 30 to 40 days, and I can cut them and come again several times, so maybe get 50 or even if I'm lucky, 60 days out of that harvest. And the Brussels sprouts will take most of the summer to grow, and potentially into the cool winter. At least that's my hope. More like 80, 90 to 100 days. But that's all theory. We'll test it out and you'll see what happens here. I'm also planting all these in 2 locations. First, in the garden, and secondly, back in the food forest, so I can do a side-by-side comparison about what kind of results I get based on the soil and the little microenvironment in both of those 2 places. So to plant these, I'm just going to lightly dig up a couple little strips here in the soil. We'll do 3 right now. And in all 3 of them, I'm going to put some of this lettuce. So I'll put 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. And the reason I'm doing 3 in each spot is because I subscribe to the theory that you should plant 1 for yourself, 1 for the weather, and 1 for the animals. Do the same thing with the radishes. Smaller seeds here. We'll do 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now for the Brussels sprouts, which again are pretty small little seeds here. You should know the drill. 1, 2, 3. Maybe an extra one. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Finally, to finish it all off, the spinach. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm gonna just use my hands or my tool here and just lightly cover those back up. Loosely. They're all buried only, a 1/2 inch or so deep. Nothing crazy. And now I'm gonna get some leaves and some grass and straw that I've been saving and collecting from the property and from friends, and just sprinkle them loosely on here as a bit of a mulch. And that should be good. Well, that went really well. It's a beautiful day outside right now. The soil is really nice and easy to work. Temperatures are definitely increasing. The weather's calling for a bit of a cold the next week, but we'll see how things go. I planted these in a couple different spots here. Now I'm gonna go do the same thing back in the food forest so we can have our side-by-side comparison. All right, I've moved everything back to the food forest. I'm gonna do the exact same thing I did in the garden. Use this and scratch a few holes in the ground, plant a variety of each of the crops. And instead of using leaves, I don't have leaves back here, but I have all this grass that I've mowed down, so that's what I use for my mulch. What's different about working back here is the ground is much, not tough to get through, but tougher than the garden, right? It's full of all these roots from all the grass and stuff, just completely full of it. And so that means there's gonna be more competition here. In the garden, you might have weeds. Out here, we have all these naturally growing grasses. So I'm gonna just scratch a bit of a bigger space than I did in the garden for it, and kind of just get rid of some of this stuff here, because I'm completely willing to lose all these crops and have them not survive, but I still wanna give them a good chance. And look at this right here. Digging in the soil, what do I find? Nice little worm. We'll put him to the side and not try and disturb him any further. But that's what excites me about this food forest as opposed to a garden. a garden is life. A garden is nice, it has life, it has vegetables, annuals typically that you plant year after year, but you may till it up, you may fertilize it, and in some senses, it's almost a sterile environment, whereas with this food forest, as I transform this grassland, it's gonna be full of life of all sorts. It's gonna be its own ecosystem, self-sustaining. And so even though there's work to establish it and start it right now, and annuals may not have much of a place in the future, right now they do. I'm gonna go heavy on the radishes here. Well, that's probably too many. I really want radishes in the food forest because since they grow in the soil, they're gonna help break things up and really expand all these root systems that are in here. The lettuce and the spinach, honestly, I expect to be food for the rabbits and the deer that are back here. But that's okay, like I said, plant 3 of each at least, or whatever you want. 1 for yourself, 1 for the weather, 1 for the animals. So instead of keeping things in nice tight little rows like I did up in the garden, I'm being a little more natural back here, we'll say, a little more wild. That's what I want this food forest to be, you know, a semi-wild place. And now I'll go find some of this grass laying around that I've cut down and put that on top as a mulch. Remember, seeds are relatively cheap. It's good to plant more than you actually expect to harvest. Not an insane amount more, you don't want to waste them, but you will definitely have some each year that don't germinate. You will have some that you lose, and that's definitely likely with what I'm doing right here by planting some of these things so early. The last thing I'll do is get a watering can and give them both a light drink, but that's it. Spinach, lettuce, radishes, and Brussels sprouts in the garden and the food forest here on April 4th or April 5th. Can't wait to see what happens. Until next time, I'll see you in the forest.